Welcome to this week's edition of the Sanctuary Sunday School, powered by the Sanctuary Academy. The new season is in full swing. You want to go to the website, www.thesanctuary.academy. You also want to join the channel. We have new classes already live for you to take at the website, and you can also join the channel. I have exclusive members only videos just for you. So I'm really excited about this new season. Again, thank you so much for taking this journey with me. Okay, let's get into this lesson. This week's subject is obedient love, and we're still talking about Joseph. We started talking about Joseph last week at the beginning of the quarter, and we're talking about obedient love and how Joseph was able to do what he was supposed to do. And we talked about dreams last week with Joseph and his dream. And a large part of making your dreams come true is to be obedient and to do what you're supposed to do and to move when you're supposed to move. And so we see Joseph moving closer to his dream through his obedience. And the thing about God is at some point we all have to obey. You can either do it willfully or you can do it unwillfully. And so we see in Joseph's story that everybody that he came in contact with played a role in him manifesting the dream that God gave him, whether it was voluntary or whether it was involuntary. They pushed him closer to that ultimate goal of delivering his family. So we see that he's here, and at this point, Joseph was in jail. And when he was in jail, he was there with the butler as well. And he had told the butler to remember them when they got out of jail, remember him, but they didn't quite do that. And so the king, the Pharaoh, he had a dream. And the dream was puzzling him. And the dream was that he said he saw 7 fat, healthy kine, which would be cows. And then he saw 7 lean, poor cows. He said, but the skinny cows, they overpowered and they overtook the fat calves. So, they destroyed them and they ate them up. And so then he had another dream. And this dream was about corn. And he saw, healthy stalks of corn. And then he saw stalks of corn that, again, they were very lean and they were in poor health. And these dreams were puzzling the king. And one thing I love about the Pharaoh, even though he was a pagan leader, he understood enough to know that there was something to this. He kept pushing and he was persistent, and he called all of his magicians and the people in his kingdom to interpret his dreams, and nobody could do it. And this is something I love these lessons because this just came in my spirit. When God has something specifically for you to do, ain't nobody that can do it but you. They could not interpret these dreams because God gave the interpretation of these dreams to Joseph. So the butler remembered. He said, hey, remember that time when you were mad and you threw me in jail? When I was in jail, there was this guy in jail, and we told him our dreams, and he interpreted our dreams, and maybe he can interpret your dreams. And so the Pharaoh went and got Joseph, and he told Joseph his dreams. And then Joseph told him, he said, yeah, your dream is actually the same. He said, you're seeing the 7 lean, and then you're seeing the 7 healthy, because what's going to happen is you're going to have 7 bountiful years in Egypt where you're going to have plenty of grain, plenty of food, plenty of water and everything. He said, but that's going to be followed by 7 years of famine where there will be nothing. And this dream was a warning to Egypt. And this was such a significant dream because what Joseph was able to do, they came up with an idea, with a plan that, okay, so since we know that the famine is coming, while we have a lot, we're going to not just blow through it. We're going to save it and save up enough for the years when we have nothing so that we can survive through that as well. And so then I love it because then Pharaoh said he's looking for somebody who was discreet and honest, trustworthy, to execute this plan. And this is when he elevated Joseph to be the prince, the ruler over all of Egypt. And look at this. It said that during the famine, all of the countries would come to Joseph for food. This is the man who was sold by his brothers because of envy and hatred and jealousy. And now he has just been elevated to be the ruler over all of Egypt by the Pharaoh. And this is something that I teach all the time when I teach about self-esteem. I don't know why it's human nature to always value the opinion of the people who think the least of us. You're that because people don't believe in your dream, because people don't think that you deserve what God has for you, you're not to believe them and modify your life to accommodate what other people think of you. Because see, God had a plan for Joseph, and God has a plan for you. And when God has a plan for you, when God has a dream for you, when God has a blessing for you, no one can take it away from you. And get this, even if they try, all they're going to do is end up pushing you closer to what God has for you. Like I told you last week, they sold him as a slave and he was supposed to be a slave. But somehow, some way, he went from slavery to the palace. Now you tell me that ain't nothing but a God. If God has pronounced palace on your life, it doesn't matter if they try to make you a slave. You're not a slave. You are a ruler. And that is what you've got to know. You've got to know who God created you to be. You've got to know what God told you to do. That's that obedient piece. It doesn't matter what anybody says. You know what God is calling you to be. And that's what you have to be. That's why you have to have obedience to the will of God. Because not only does it bless you, it blesses everybody. Because this was so significant. Because look at this. It said that all the nations would come to Egypt for food. Everybody didn't have this dream. Everybody didn't get this revelation. So the other kingdoms did not know that the famine was coming. But God gave Egypt the heads up through his servant Joseph. And so they were able to sustain all of the nations of the world through Joseph's dream and his obedience to God. And again, I'm looking at these relationships because sometimes as church people, we're very selective